If you've cracked or damaged the screen on your iPhone 16 Pro, then don't worry, replacing it is easier than you might think. In this video, we'll guide you through the entire process, from safely disassembling your device to reassembling with a brand new screen. Before going ahead with this repair, you should check and see which iPhone model you have by using Apple's iPhone identifier, which we'll link in the description below. In this guide, we're repairing the A3293 model, which is the European version. If you have one of the other models from a different region, you might notice some internal differences in the iPhone, so just be cautious and double check what the differences are before starting. Lastly, if you need any of the tools or parts we use in this video, we're going to link them all in the description below. Okay, let's get into the repair. So as always, the first thing you're going to want to do to start this repair is power your device off and make sure you discharge the battery below 25%. We're going to be working with tools very close to the iPhone battery, and if it's fully charged, there's a much higher risk of causing a short or it catching fire if the battery is accidentally damaged during the repair. So it might take a bit longer for it to wait to discharge, but it's worth doing to keep yourself and your device safe. The next thing you're going to want to do is remove the two pentalobe screws at the bottom of the iPhone. After removing the pentalobe screws, you're now free to heat the iPhone. We're going to start by removing the back cover so we can disconnect the battery. It's worth noting that this isn't necessarily essential and you can replace the screen without disconnecting the battery. But we'd highly recommend not skipping this step, as doing so prevents any live voltage from the battery shorting components during the screen replacement. If you choose to skip this step and move straight to removing the screen, we would recommend to be especially careful not to use any metal prying tools or touch any exposed contacts in your phone. Heating the iPhone is going to loosen the adhesive and allow us to pry the back cover off. We're using our forward vacuum separation machine to do this, but if you don't have one of these, you can either use a heat mat or a hairdryer. Just make sure you're heating the back cover so it's hot to the touch. That's how you'll know the adhesive is loosened enough to start prying. If you're using a heat mat, you want to be heating somewhere between 55 to 65 degrees Celsius and heating it for around 5 to 10 minutes. Now the device has been heated up, you can grab your prying tool and insert it between the frame and the back cover. If you're struggling to create an opening, you can always use a suction cup to help lift the back cover up and away from the frame. Before you start prying elsewhere on the phone, be aware that there's a delicate cable connecting the back glass to the phone, which sits right next to the volume button. So avoid inserting your prying tool there, or if you do, be extra careful. There's also some spring contacts at the top and in the bottom left, so when prying in these areas, try not to pry more than 3mm to avoid your prying tool bending them. You can also use small amounts of IPA to help with prying and loosening the screen. Keep prying around the entire phone. Once you've pried around the entire back glass, you can lift the back glass up. It's still attached to the phone by a ribbon cable, so open it gently like a book towards the volume buttons. If there's quite a bit of resistance when lifting it up, don't force it, just pry around the entire back glass again to see if you missed any adhesive. Now it's time to disconnect the battery and disconnect the cable keeping the back cover attached to the phone. Start by removing the shield covering the battery connector by removing the 3 tri-point screws holding it down. We're using a magnetic mat throughout this guide to keep track of all the screws and stay organised. Now you can remove the shield covering the back glass connector. Remove the 4 tri-point screws securing it down. Now you can disconnect the battery connector. Now remove the upper connector shield. Now you can disconnect the back glass connector. You can now remove the phone from the heat mat. With the back glass removed, it's left the rear camera exposed, so in the next steps we're going to be removing the rear camera. Again, This isn't necessary, we're just doing this so the phone can sit flat when we remove the screen, and also removing the camera just avoids any potential damage to the camera lenses as we work on the screen. Start by removing the 2 Phillips screws securing the rear camera. Now remove the 2 Phillips screws securing the LiDAR sensor. Now disconnect the first rear camera connector followed by the LiDAR sensor connector. You can now remove the LiDAR sensor. Now disconnect the second camera connector which sits underneath the first connector. This will allow you to remove the rear camera. So now we've removed the rear case, disconnected the battery and removed the camera, we can finally start the process of removing the screen. So if you skip disconnecting the battery, this is where you're going to want to start. Just like we did with the rear case, we've heated the iPhone again to help loosen the adhesive bonding the screen to the housing. Once the device has been heated, you can grab your prying tool and insert it between the frame and the screen. If you're struggling to create an opening, you can always use a suction cup to help lift the screen up and away from the frame. You can also use small amounts of IPA to help with prying and loosening the screen. Before you start prying elsewhere on the phone, be aware that there's 2 delicate cables connecting the screen to the phone. One which sits just above the action button and another about halfway along the left edge of the phone. So avoid inserting your prying tool there, or if you do, just be extra careful. There's also some spring contacts around the top and bottom, so try and only insert your prying tool around 3mm in these areas. While you're prying the screen off, if you're finding this video useful, we would really appreciate it if you could give this video a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button, as it really helps us grow the channel and keep making videos like this. Once you've pried around the entire screen, you can lift the screen up. It's still attached to the phone by 2 connectors, so open it gently like a book towards the left edge. If there's quite a bit of resistance when lifting it up, don't force it, just pry around the entire back glass again to see if you missed any adhesive. Now you can remove the 2 shields covering the front sensor and display connectors. Use a tri-point screwdriver to remove the 2 screws securing them down. Next, disconnect the display connector followed by the front sensor connector. You'll now be able to remove the screen. Next, you're going to want to test your new screen to make sure that everything is working correctly before properly fitting it. We're using our IP9 soft OLED screen here. Plug the display connector back in and then reconnect the battery connector, then turn the phone on. Give the screen a quick touch test, and when you're happy, turn the phone back off. Before disconnecting the screen, disconnect the battery connector. Now you can disconnect the display connector. The next thing you're going to need to do is take the front sensor which controls Face ID from your old screen and put it onto your new screen. Make sure you remove any protective plastic covers from your new screen first. Start by removing the tri-point screw on the old screen and then remove the bracket. Now add some IPA around the entire sensor to help loosen the adhesive, keeping it stuck to the screen. Use a pick to gently pry underneath the sensor. Work your way down the sensor in a back and forth motion until you reach the end. Use your pick to pry the sensor out of its socket. You'll then be able to remove the sensor. The next thing you're going to want to do is make sure the frame is clean. Go around the phone with a spudger and make sure there's no adhesive residue left over. Once the frame is clean, you can apply a new adhesive to the frame and go around the frame with the back of the tweezers to make sure the adhesive is stuck to the frame properly. Now grab your new screen and we're going to be applying the front sensor. Stick the front sensor down onto the screen and reapply its screw to secure it to the screen. Now you can reapply the bracket. It slides underneath the little clip. You can now secure it down with its screw. Now remove the plastic protectors for the adhesive you applied to the frame earlier. Now you can reconnect the display and front sensor connectors. Now you can reapply the 2 shields with their tri-point screws. Now you can slowly lower the screen back into its frame and firmly press it into place to make sure the adhesive bonds with the screen. With the screen fitted, you can flip the phone over and refit the camera and LiDAR sensor. Next, clean up the frame before refitting the back cover. After cleaning up the frame, you're going to want to apply a back cover adhesive and apply the adhesive the same way we applied the screen adhesive. We're not doing this to this phone as we're only doing this for demonstration purposes, and the back cover we have is going to be going back to stock after this repair video. When you've applied your adhesive, you can reconnect the back glass connector. Use a sturdy object to hold the back glass in place while you refit the two shields. Reconnect the battery connector and then refit the final shield. You can now refit the back cover by slowly lowering it into the frame and gently pressing it into place, making sure you apply pressure around the entire back cover to make sure the adhesive bonds with the back cover. Lastly, fit the two pentalobe screws. When you turn your iPhone back on, you might get a pop-up message that says Apple are unable to verify whether the screen is genuine or not. But if you don't, you can navigate to your parts and service history in your settings, which will show that it's an unknown part. Again, this isn't anything to worry about. The screen will work as usual. Apple just puts this message up to inform you that the part is non-genuine. And that's it. I hope this guide was helpful. If it was, we would really appreciate it if you could like this video, click the subscribe button, or leave a comment so we can keep making guides like this in the future.